so far so good. But let's look at what's happened in the last couple of years, more so in the last year. And if you look at what has been the key success factor for the Philippines with respect to English voice BPO, it's really been three things. The first is the affinity to the US culture, the accent. The second is scale. And the third, let's not forget, cost competitiveness. Now, if you look at what's happened in the last year, the cost differential between Philippines and India has changed significantly. I know there is a separate session on that tomorrow, so I don't want to steal the thunder from that session. But basically,
it's alright. You can say whatever you want.
Okay, that's fine.
You don't have to steal the thunder from tomorrow's
it's
presentation.
Fine. I need to present the same thing tomorrow.
Because I won't be here tomorrow. I'm here today. And I'm leaving at 7:30.
Okay, fair
and
enough.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, fair enough. So 2 years back, the cost differential between India and Philippines was 5%. Now, the cost differential is 25%. Right. So India is about 25% cheaper than the Philippines. So I think the question that's important for the industry today is, given that the Philippines is more expensive than India, how do you justify the value proposition? So how do you step up in the curve in terms of differentiation to ensure that you can sustain the competitive advantage? To me, that is the single biggest challenge for the industry today. Yes, voice is not that cost conscious in industry. If we were to look at another aspect of our research, the percentage of onshore in all contact center outsourcing deals has actually increased. When I say onshore, that means work being done in US and UK. That share has increased from 30 to 40%. So clearly, companies are not just looking at costs. But having said that, how do you strengthen your differentiation so that you can justify a 25 to 30% cost differential with respect to India is going to be an important challenge for the industry.
All right, thank you very much. And let's bring in now Benedict Hernandez, President of the Contact Center Association of the Philippines. 25% more expensive than India, so eventually could we see more clients from the West moving back to India when they left India several years ago and went to the Philippines? Are we really that more expensive, and what will it really take for us to bring down our costs?
So, Karthik was right. This is going to be a subject of a big discussion debate. It's been a subject of big discussion debate amongst the members of the association, our partners with government. We've been watching this now for a long time. About 18 months ago, we've seen that bifurcation of the peso versus the US dollar and the rupee versus the US dollar. It used to be the same. So now it's so tremendously different. It's about 35% difference. So by doing nothing else, by mere exchange rate, you created this pricing difference between the two. And I think that's why in the three themes that I mentioned earlier, the first one that I said that's important for the industry is exactly what Karthik is saying. Where can we actually deliver demonstrable and sustainable differentiation, right? The fortunate thing about the contact center business is by default, with all the characteristics that you've heard throughout today, even from Dr. Villegas about the qualities of the Philippines for this business, we've actually we've stood the impact of this currency bifurcation. Right? You still see the demand. This year is still going to continue to be another strong year. We're going at 18%. And that's really the power of brand, the power of differentiation, when you say, it's not about price difference with another geography. This is the best sure solution for contact center. Now, in my other job, right, for my BPO company, I get to deal with many other services that's being delivered out of the Philippines. I have line of sight over IT services from the Philippines, finance and accounting, HR services, industry-specific capabilities, including network service, engineering type of work being delivered out of the Philippines. And that's where we see the difference. And I've seen some of the work that our analyst friends have done, and they're pretty much saying the same thing. Right? In the other services, when it's IT and non-voice BPO, that differentiation isn't as obvious yet. Right? And we also don't know how long, and even in the voice realm, can we keep up with this differentiation. So I do think that's why the team today is continue to deepen and widen. Because we can't sit on our laurels. Right now, I think we've actually been protected. And we don't really see a lot of discussions of let's move it out or let's less in Philippines. I think broadly we're staying hyper-growth. What the industry worried about amongst our membership in CCAP was earlier in the year, more about the peso strengthening. When it was at the 40, 41, and then people were talking about 37, 38, everybody started creating noise. We were having a lot of discussions. We reached out to our partners in Bangko Sentral, and so on. Now that it's actually holding at around 44, the noise is not there. So the contact center, the voice sector, reacted more to peso appreciation because it does erode our margin because our contracts are pretty much dollar denominated. Tomorrow there's a big discussion on ways to navigate through that. But really not much on this comparison with the Indian rupee. So I think that's a very broad generalization, but I think voice in the Philippines is where clearly we made a differentiation, but we can't sit in our laurels. So we need to keep on deepening and diversifying the differentiated story.
All right, I think Kartik has something to say about what you said, Benedict.
I've been to the Philippines a number of times, and one of the topics that always comes up for discussion is, should the industry start to think about diversifying beyond voice to non-voice in IT? I remember intense discussions around the topic when we worked with VPAP around the roadmap for the industry. And in our perspective, and my personal view, also coming from working with a number of clients who leverage Philippines, is this. Yes, you need to diversify, but do not lose track of your core. And the core strength of the Philippines is, as Benedict said, in the voice contact center space. So you've got to use that as an anchor, as a foundation, and say how you can expand. Right? So for example, in the HR domain, there are many processes that are voice-centric. Even in the IT domain, there are things like 24/7 help desk. Right? There are things that are more akin to the core strength of the Philippines, and you've got to think about diversification in that context, and not diversification for just the sake of diversification.
All right, thank you so much, Kartik. And speaking of voice and non-voice, we are about 500 here inside the marquee. We want to hear your voice. Who would like to speak out? Do we belong to the voice or non-voice sector? Please speak out. Okay, yes, sir. Please state your name and your company.
My name is Gil. I'm representing TransConnection. It's a new contact center that we're opening in the Philippines. We're just starting now. I've been working here in the Philippines for several, 4 years as a client with the industry. And everything you said here sounds amazing, and really we're here for 4 years working with call centers, and we know the ability and the advantages of working here and the Filipino workers.
So what is not amazing?
Everything you said, there are a lot of things amazing, I think.
What is not amazing?
What is not amazing? Let's
Yes.
talk about that.
Yes.
People didn't mention it too much. There are a lot of difficulties. I saw that as a client, and I'm sure I'm going to see it also as an operator of a BPO. First of all, the workload, the ability of the agents is very good, but there are a lot of workers who are not good enough, who are not as able to perform as well as we want them to, and we are very limited in our ability to release workers or fire them. The labor laws here are very, very strict, and giving a lot of strength to the agents, and this is a major problem. And I know that BPOs are dealing quite a lot of their time, HR, with just bureaucracy with the agent, and fighting over that, and the ability of an agent to sue the call center about stuff, even if it's not relevant and the government is supporting it, and it creates a big challenge for the call centers themselves.